Jamestown has always been remembered as the birthplace of English America. But hidden beneath its soil lies a story darker than most imagine. A story that took more than 400 years, ancient bones, and modern DNA to finally reveal. The year was 1607, when the first permanent English colony in the New World was established on the banks of the James River. To many, Jamestown was the first step in building an empire. But for those who lived there, it was a place of starvation, betrayal, and death. What we were taught in history books only scratches the surface, because beneath the ruins of Jamestown's church, archaeologists discovered burials that exposed secrets meant to remain hidden. Secrets that would rewrite not just the colony's history, but the legacy of an entire English family. The discovery began innocently enough. Archaeologists working beneath the church floor unearthed 2 graves. Inside were the remains of men buried with honor, suggesting high social rank. But who were they? Why were they buried in such a sacred place, reserved only for the most important of the colony's leaders? And what shocking scandal did their DNA expose centuries later? Jamestown was not a place for the weak. The settlers endured unimaginable horrors, especially during what came to be called the starving time. The winter of 1609 to 1610 left hundreds trapped, surrounded by hostile territory, and cut off from supplies. Survivors wrote of desperate measures, accounts so disturbing that some historians dismissed them as exaggerations. But archaeological evidence would later confirm what no one wanted to believe. Human bones at the site bore unmistakable marks of cannibalism. Jamestown was not just about survival. It was about power, alliances, and status. And at the center of this power were families with ties to England's aristocracy. Among the burials beneath the church floor, archaeologists identified Captain William West. He was a young nobleman, the cousin of Thomas West, Lord de la Warr, who governed Virginia. His family connections made him a man of influence even in this desperate colony. Beside him lay another elite figure, Sir Ferdinando Wenman. A knight and the master of the ordnance, Wenman's presence at Jamestown symbolized the crown's investment in the colony. But his story, like West's, ended abruptly. His life cut short before the settlement stabilized. Both men represented the upper crust of English society. Both were buried with respect. Yet their DNA would uncover a truth no one in their family would have dared admit in the 1600s. The secret came from a surprising source: mitochondrial DNA. Unlike other genetic markers, mitochondrial DNA passes directly from mother to child, unchanged through generations. It is a silent witness, carrying the unbroken line of maternal ancestry. When scientists studied the remains of William West, they expected to confirm his noble lineage. But what they found was shocking. The DNA revealed that somewhere in his family's past, an illegitimate birth had taken place. This discovery shattered the carefully preserved image of aristocratic purity. For centuries, noble families maintained strict records of bloodlines, using them to claim power, land, and titles. But William West's DNA exposed a hidden fracture, a moment when the official story no longer matched the biological truth. It was as if the bones themselves whispered a scandal long buried, a scandal the West family would never have wanted exposed. And yet, science had stripped away the secrecy of time. For the Jamestown settlers, lineage mattered. It defined one's authority in the colony. But this genetic revelation suggested that even the most powerful families carried secrets of betrayal and shame. Imagine the weight of this discovery. A cousin of the governor, buried as an honored leader, yet carrying a hidden truth that questioned the very legitimacy of his bloodline. For a society obsessed with honor, this was more than scandal. It was dangerous. But the DNA did not just tell a story of illegitimacy. It also connected William West to others in ways historians had never realized. The genetic ties helped reconstruct family networks, showing how deeply aristocratic power stretched across the Atlantic. The Jamestown colony, it turned out, was not just an experiment in survival. It was an extension of English power politics. And the buried bodies beneath its church floor carried within them the silent politics of blood. Sir Ferdinando Wenman's remains added another layer to the mystery. Though less is known about his family secrets, His presence alongside West painted a clear picture. Jamestown was built not only by struggling farmers and craftsmen, but also by men whose names carried weight in England's halls of power. And yet, those names did not protect them. Jamestown claimed lives without mercy. Noble birth could not shield one from starvation, disease, or sudden death in a hostile land. The colony was fragile, teetering between survival and collapse. Each winter, each shipment from England, each alliance with native tribes determined whether the settlers would endure. Behind every story of discovery lay a shadow of despair. The church burials captured this paradox perfectly. Two men of status, buried with ceremony, but dead long before their vision of the colony could succeed. Their bones told of both privilege and vulnerability. The starving time was perhaps the darkest chapter. The settlers consumed horses, dogs, rats, even leather. And when those were gone, some turned to cannibalism, leaving cut marks on human bones that remain as chilling evidence. In this world of desperation, the DNA scandal of William West may seem small, but it carried symbolic weight, reminding us that even as settlers struggled to survive, they clung to titles, reputations, and appearances. And when those appearances cracked, the truth was devastating. The West family, powerful in England, would never have admitted such a breach of bloodline. Yet in Jamestown, that truth was buried, literally, beneath the floor of the very church that symbolized order and civilization. For archaeologists, the discovery was groundbreaking. It was one of the first times DNA had been used to reveal social scandal in a historic context. It proved that science could reach where written records remained silent. More importantly, it reshaped how we view the founding of English America. Jamestown was not just about brave adventurers seeking a new life. It was about families, politics, secrets, and scandals carried across the ocean. The bones of William West and Ferdinando Wenman remind us that history is never as clean as we imagine. It is messy, human, filled with contradictions. And sometimes the truth lies buried for centuries, waiting for science to bring it back. The Jamestown settlement went on to survive, though at great cost. The survivors rebuilt, replenished by new waves of settlers, and eventually became the roots of colonial America. But its beginnings were scarred by death, desperation, and secrets like the ones DNA has now revealed. When we think of America's first colony, we imagine struggle and endurance. But perhaps we should also remember scandal, because the founding of English America was not just a triumph of survival, it was a story of hidden truths. The illegitimacy revealed in William West's DNA does not diminish his place in history. Instead, it humanizes him. It shows that even those of noble birth carried the same vulnerabilities, flaws, and hidden pasts as anyone else. And it proves that history is never finished. With every new discovery, every new analysis, we peel back another layer of the past. What was once hidden can always return, carried in bones, waiting in silence. The graves beneath Jamestown's church are not just archaeological finds. They are confessions from the dead. Confessions that remind us how fragile reputations are, how easily secrets outlast those who keep them. 4 centuries after the settlers walked the muddy paths of Jamestown, their stories are still unfolding. Science has become the final witness, revealing truths that the living tried to bury. And in those truths, we find a darker, more human side of history. Jamestown's story will never be the same, because now we know that even the first English settlers carried secrets darker than the wilderness around them. Secrets that only the dead themselves could finally reveal.